Before we talk about where Hbar could go, we need to understand where it is and why that matters. 12 cents is not an exciting price. It doesn't trigger FOMO. It doesn't make headlines. It's the exact opposite of what gets retail traders excited, and that's precisely why it matters. At 12 cents, you can hold 18,487 Hbar for $2,200. That's a realistic position size for regular investors, not life-changing capital, not lottery ticket territory. Just a meaningful allocation that requires thinking about. The market cap sitting at $5.2 billion tells you something important. This isn't priced as a revolutionary technology. It's priced as a project with real promise but unproven adoption. That's honest pricing. Compare that to blockchains priced at $50 to $100 billion market cap on pure narrative. Those networks have already baked in the assumption of massive adoption. They're trading on hope. So, HEDERA at $5.2 billion is trading on potential. That's fundamentally different, you know. Potential can either materialize or, well, evaporate. But hope always evaporates eventually. This grounded starting point, it's really the foundation for realistic analysis. Price projections only matter if they start from where you actually are, not where you wish you were. The $2,200 position size is deliberate. It's not $200 that you'd lose and not really care about, and it's not $20,000 that you'd panic sell on any dip. It's meaningful, it requires belief, and, yeah, it requires patience. So, that's the psychological setup for a real infrastructure play versus, you know, a speculation play. Now, let's talk about what you're actually holding if you own Hbar. Most people, honestly, think of blockchain as just, well, blockchain. They're all building toward the same goal, decentralization, peer-to-peer networks, and, you know, cutting out middlemen. But HEDERA isn't trying to do that. And that's exactly why, you know, enterprises actually trust it. So, HEDERA uses Hashgraph consensus instead of the traditional blockchain architecture. What does that mean exactly? Well, it means fast finality, it means predictable fees, and it means high throughput without congestion. You know, these aren't really exciting features for retail traders who are just watching candles bounce, but they're absolutely essential for organizations that are running real services. Just think about a financial institution building a payment system. Honestly, they don't care whether the technology is decentralized or centralized. What they care about is speed. They care about knowing exactly what the fees will be. And they care about the system not crashing when volumes spike. So, HEDERA checks all those boxes. Bitcoin doesn't. Ethereum doesn't without layer 2s. Solana promises, but honestly, delivers inconsistently. That's why HEDERA keeps building while other blockchains chase hype. Real enterprises aren't moved by Twitter discourse, they're moved by technical reliability. And here's the part that determines whether Hbar has any shot at real price appreciation. Demand for Hbar is tied directly to network usage. So, Hbar is required to pay transaction fees. When adoption increases, that means more transactions are happening, and well, more transactions mean more Hbar gets burned. That leads to more demand for Hbar to pay those fees. You know, that's not just some abstract scarcity, it's actually concrete demand creation. Now compare that to tokens that honestly exist just because they exist, or those tokens whose value is supposed to come from things like governance or staking, but really, there's no underlying demand driver there. HBAR, on the other hand, has a real demand mechanism. Enterprise adoption directly translates into token demand, and that's really the only path to sustainable price appreciation. But here's what most Hbar holders don't understand. That demand grows slowly. Enterprises don't switch infrastructure overnight. Integration takes months. Testing takes more months. Full deployment takes even more time. But once integrated, systems tend to stay in place for years. That's why patience is the only trait that matters for holding Hbar. Quick traders won't see action. Long-term infrastructure investors will. The conservative scenario. Let's look at the first realistic path: conservative growth. In this scenario, HEDERA expands adoption steadily. No acceleration, no dramatic adoption curves, just consistent integration with enterprises. Developer activity remains solid. Market conditions stay measured. The moderate scenario assumes HEDERA gains wider recognition as real infrastructure, not hype, but actual respect from enterprises and developers. Transaction volume increases meaningfully. Market awareness improves. Hbar reaches 40 to 60 cents. Your $2,200 becomes $7,300 to $11,000. Market cap expands toward $20 to $30 billion. That's still smaller than some layer 1 projects priced on pure narrative. But it reflects actual adoption. For this to happen, HEDERA needs successful integrations, real applications running on mainnet, not just concepts, not just partnerships, working systems handling real volume. This is achievable, but requires execution, and that's the entire difference. Now, the aggressive scenario. This assumes HEDERA becomes a dominant enterprise infrastructure layer. Large-scale integrations, favorable market conditions, capital flowing back into infrastructure. Hbar reaches 80 cents to $1. Your $2,200 becomes $14,700 to $18,400. That's a 7 to 8 times return over 2 years. Is it possible? Yes. But it requires everything aligning. HEDERA execution has to be flawless. Market conditions have to turn favorable toward infrastructure. Competition has to stumble. Most of those variables are outside HEDERA's control. This outcome shouldn't be your expectation. It should be your upside scenario. It's really the if everything works perfectly outcome. Here's what matters. All 3 scenarios assume patient holding. None of them work if you panic sell on a 40% dip. None of them work if you chase other tokens. None of them work if you're looking at charts daily. They only work if you make the position, and honestly, forget about it, for 2 years. Except to monitor adoption metrics instead of price. Here's the uncomfortable truth about infrastructure projects. They feel boring until suddenly they're not. So, enterprise systems, they integrate slowly. You don't really see major announcements. You don't see social media hype. What you do see is quiet technical progress. And then, one day you realize the system is processing billions in daily volume. And suddenly, the infrastructure project that felt dead for years is now essential. That's how real adoption works. It's not overnight, it's not viral, it's this gradual integration that compounds until it's just undeniable. HEDERA, honestly, benefits from this dynamic. Once enterprise systems are integrated with HEDERA, they tend to stay integrated. The switching costs just become prohibitive. Hbar, at that point, is really baked into the operational infrastructure. That's when demand becomes structural, not speculative. And that's when price appreciation happens, not because traders think it's cool, but because the token is genuinely needed. Competition exists, but HEDERA doesn't need to dominate the entire market to succeed. Capturing specific niches at scale, perhaps enterprise payments, or supply chain, or AI verification, could be enough to justify a multi-billion-dollar market cap over time. Your $2,200 position today isn't betting that HEDERA becomes bigger than Bitcoin. It's betting that HEDERA becomes essential infrastructure in specific enterprise segments. That's a much more achievable outcome, and it's worth significantly more per token than 12 cents. If you believe in infrastructure over hype, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because we track real adoption, not price pumps, and adoption is where the real returns come from. This is the difference between gambling and investing. So, here's what's real about a $2,200 Hbar position by 2026. In the conservative scenario, you're looking at $3,300 to $4,600. That's real money. That's your patience rewarded. In the moderate scenario, you're looking at $7,300 to $11,000. That's where enterprise adoption starts showing up meaningfully. In the aggressive scenario, you're looking at $14,700 to $18,400. That's where everything aligns perfectly. So, what's the likelihood of each scenario? Well, the conservative case is definitely the most probable. The moderate case is, honestly, pretty realistic. And the aggressive case? That's your upside. But here's what all 3 have in common. They require patience. They require you to understand that infrastructure compounds slowly, over time. They require you to tune out the noise and focus on watching adoption instead. Most Hbar holders, honestly, will fail because they'll sell too early. They'll panic when the price dips. They'll end up chasing other tokens. They'll treat this whole thing like some kind of casino when it's actually a 2-year infrastructure bet. The real winners? They'll be the ones who hold through all the boredom. The ones who monitor adoption metrics instead of obsessing over price charts. The ones who get that excitement kills returns, but patience is what really builds them. Your $2,200 today is, well, a grounded position in realistic technology. What that turns into by 2026, it depends entirely on whether HEDERA actually executes and whether you can stay patient. Before you go, definitely check out my other videos where I break down enterprise blockchain adoption metrics, how to spot real infrastructure plays versus speculation, and why patience is honestly the most underrated trading skill out there. I've linked them in the description, and they should be showing up in your suggested videos right now. Thanks for watching TJ Crypto World. Hold patiently, monitor adoption, and I'll see you in the next breakdown. Peace.